Hello, hello. Welcome to the new episode. I'm Rom, CEO and co-founder of Pivot, modern procurement software. I'm super excited to have Eric Bourgeois with us today. This guest is a bit special for me because we were colleagues at Swile. Eric joined Swile 2 years ago to create the procurement department really from the ground. We had pretty much nothing at the time. And he witnessed the early days of Pivot because the idea of Pivot come from my experience at Swile. So working with Eric was a significant influence in the project. So let me tell you a bit about Eric before we start. So Eric is what we can call an expert in procurement. I think, Eric, you've been in procurement like forever. You're not that old. Will not tell your age, but you've been like really forever. Before joining Pivot, you were at the leading classified website Le Bon Coin in the Adevinta group for close to 4 years. Mm-hmm. And before that, at a consulting procurement firm called Peers. In this episode, I want to cover a special topic, which is procurement in an acquisition context, which lead to many challenges. So the first question to start for you, Eric, is the beginning. Like when you decided to join Swile, I don't recall if you were aware of this major acquisition that was ongoing. And for those who don't know, Swile acquired Bimpli to a big French bank called BPCE, which was quite complex because it was a competitor acquisition. So a lot of antitrust regulation and so it's quite a challenge. And it was not only a cultural shock because, as you can imagine, working for a bank and a shop like Swile is quite different. But I think there were multiple challenges. So I really want to cover this topic with you, Eric. And I'll start. Were you conscious about the challenges in front of you when you started at Swile?
Yes. So coming into Swile during a major acquisition was not a small task, and we knew about it. So during the hiring process, I was like informed about it, but unfortunately, I was not in the safe team in order to be,
Clean team, yeah, I remember.
So I knew that we were merging with a company that had been recently consolidated with multiple entities. So it was not only a cultural complexity, it was also a structural complexity. So I knew that I had to manage lack of procurement culture at Swile, but also the dynamics that Bimpli was still adapting to his recent merge and internal merge.
Yeah,
So,
you're right, Eric. Maybe something we could clarify to the audience is Bimpli was a very recent, not really dry work on the merge of multiple companies. How many companies was into Bimpli?
I think it was 5.
Yeah, I would have said 5 to 7. Yeah. So 5 companies combined under the new brand Bimpli.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'd say it was more a branding topic that rather a proper merge, and all the job was remaining when we incorporate when we finish the deal. Actually,
yeah, and it was on top of the merger, which is always like something that you need to manage from a cultural perspective, from a procurement perspective, data perspective. It was not just a procurement exercise. On that case, it was also like a business integration challenge. So this is where it started. But we were aware of, but we cannot like. I was not able to dig into Bimpli till the deal was done.
Yeah, and that was very special to the fact that it was a acquisition of a competitor, and I remember like we were all stuck with the fact of not being in the clean team. But I don't remember in your position what you were able to prepare. What was your plan? Because you were completely blind on what's behind the curtain. Once we discover what's the actual organization, contract, like potential legacy, because we acquired at the time a company that exists for the most part longer than Swile. So how did you prepare yourself to be ready for it?
A good question. Basically, preparation was mostly about controlling what I could control.
Yeah.
So ensuring that we had like strong internal foundation at Swile in few months, because we only had like when I joined Swile, I had like 5 months in order to prepare procurement to welcome Bimpli. So with a lot of limited access to information, we focused on building a flexible procurement framework and adaptable whatever the acquisition outcome. So this is what we built, like a flexible and scalable procurement framework. So this is what we did first at Swile. And then when Bimpli deal was done, so post deal, the approach was to align with the acquired team to understand their procurement practices, to dig into the data, to understand overlaps and gaps, and to prioritize integration and synergies opportunities. So
Can you elaborate on your framework, like the main pillars or axis of your flexible framework?
Yeah, basically what we did is to uh, to deliver first leverage. So what we did basically at Swile is to focus on our job, which was getting data, turning this data into knowledge. And basically it was the basic of the strategy of procurement, but turning this data into knowledge and take this knowledge into
Savings?
I would say into a vision. It's a bit
Yeah.
like, but into a vision, because and quite important, because the vision needed to fit to Swile strategy, vision, and objectives. Because you can't like build, a procurement structure that is disaligned with your company. It will not work. So we did that. And yeah, you're right. To deliver savings during the 5 first months was critical for us, because we wanted to show what we were there. And on top of savings, objective was to solve some problems as well.
Yeah.
Basically, when you are coming into a procurement, into a company without any procurement structure, you have savings opportunity and problem to solve from an operational perspective. So you need to address both of these topics in order to be seen as like a key partners, and to be in the middle of the integration when it's the post deal,
Yeah.
time. Because
You mean being valued as a strategic partner in what has been. I think I need to share something with you, Eric, that you might not be aware of, conversation that happened before you joined Swile at the time. So I remember having conversation with Will, the still CFO of Swile, and Loic, the CEO. And we have multiple times with the conversation, when is the right time to hire a procurement person and create a department. I think that could be a topic of an episode in itself. But I remember Loic saying, we'll hire a procurement person when the saving gonna cover his costs. So I think it is what is interesting in that is it reflects perception of Loic in what's procurement, which was mine as well at the moment, because I didn't know about procurement. And I quickly realized that when you join in the company, your job was not, and quite far actually, from just negotiating contract and do saving. I think this is the old way of doing procurement. The company still need that, but you need to do that, and exactly as you describe it, as with a wider view and wider impact in the company. So you end up delivering savings, because there is a lot of value in saving, especially in a company that is more focused on delivering that efficiency that lead to a lot of optimization for and savings. So you did that, but it was way more. So, and for me, what was really interesting is to witness the difference, the gap of perception of what was procurement in the eyes of Loic. And the impact was way more than what he initially envisioned for a procurement department. And I think the way your team and your role has evolved is a very good example of the impact of a procurement team in a company, and the difference between the old way and the new way of doing procurement.
Yeah. So funny enough,
You are not aware of that, right?
no, I was not aware, but I will talk about that with him, because we we procurement function is way more profitable than what he thought back to that time. Because yeah, we in fact it was a great opportunity for me and for the procurement department, for all the team, because we were joining a company that needed to be profitable. So our job, from a savings perspective at least, was really critical, because we were one of the key critical elements in order to make sure that Swile will be profitable. But on top of that, Swile is a company that is a fast-driven tech, company, and that grew a lot during these last 2 years. And what we aim to do is not only savings, is to build like and to industrialize the way of working with our provider, and not only from like a negotiation or sourcing perspective, but also from a procure to pay perspective, well the topic.
Yeah.
Because we needed to industrialize Swile to go to another level, but on the same time, we needed to keep the DNA of Swile.
Yeah.
And it was like not a complicated exercise, but we needed to have the right balance between go fast, industrialize, but not becoming this type of big companies that lose their DNA from the beginning. And we needed to keep what is Swile, in fact. So
Yeah.
a fast tech driven company. So
And
yeah.
Loic, and Loic is really against bureaucracy, and which, coming back to the acquisition, was, I think, and I'll let you elaborate or put it to a different way, but like acquiring company owned by a bank, by definition, is a cultural gap. So you were in the middle of, okay, we need to evolve, create the procurement practice in a company where people come from a very decentralized approach. That is not the opposite of having a procurement department, in my opinion, and Swile is a good illustration of that. And on the other end, you have a company that Swile is acquiring that is very efficient at the end, because even though they can be bureaucratic because of their DNA, they've done. I think we discover. I don't know how you see it, but we discover things that were quite efficient,
Yeah.
done in a very different ways. So the intersection of two was interesting in terms of observation, but the challenge to make it work with companies that come from a dramatically different roots, DNA, was for me the biggest challenge. Would you agree on that?
Yes. So as you said, a cultural gap was quite a thing. Fast tech-driven culture versus traditional and
Shock.
corporate, environment. So it was a shock, and to create like a bridge between these two companies was something quite like significant. So it was cultural alignment was quite one of the key success factors, to be honest, of the merge that happened. For procurement, another challenge, but also I would say like an opportunity, was dealing with procurement frameworks that were underdeveloped, but on both sides.
Okay.
So it was like an opportunity because we managed to build a procurement framework and processes from the ground up. And we did it with an approach which was like a bit of a best of both worlds, because we didn't build a procurement department for Swile or for Bimply, but for the two companies. Where we were quite young as a department, because only 5 months old, Bimply was joining, so we took all the best in the two companies. This is why, as of today, the procurement department is a bit larger than what we had at the beginning. It's a department that cover procurement, of course, but also production, supply chain, purchasing at an industrial level. So it was an opportunity for us, in fact, to have like these two different frameworks, two different way of working. And as you said, you're right. From a business perspective, Swile was really strong on a part of the market, but Bimply was really strong as well. So, and I think at the end, the merge, when we take a look right now, I think it was done at an impressive pace, and also in the right way, because as of today we really took what was best in the two companies to build once. So yeah,
synergies, and
yeah,
it was one of the biggest motivation of this deal.
yeah.
I think what you're saying is that, and this is my feeling as well, like we were quite surprised in a good way in what we've discovered, despite the cultural gap, which is not a bad thing in itself. It's just a challenge. Did you discover other thing that was either a good or a bad surprise when you opened the curtain after the deal was done?
So yeah, maybe the main challenge for me and for the procurement department was the lack of data and procurement track records, such as supplier data, contracts, spend analytic. So it was quite tough to take a informed decision quickly, in fact. So it was one of the challenge, and we had to rebuild, or to build, maybe to build a real process, policy, DOA, all the stuff from the beginning, in order to make sure that to address every and to tackle every supplier, and we had to rebuild framework from incomplete information. So for that, we needed to spend a lot of time with people, basically. The lack of procurement data was, and we make like us relying on people and their knowledge from the past. So this is one of the challenges we had at the beginning. However, what we discovered, and I talked about it, but from a supply chain perspective, we discovered that they were more than they were
more advanced.
better than us. They already had like a piece of like industrial way of working with their cards, with their paper, etc. So we learned from it, and we built like a strong supply chain department in order to make sure to avoid any shortage and to evolve. And if you take a look at what was the card product 2 years ago and what it is now, we have a lot of features that evolved thanks to Bimply.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. What would you do differently if you would have to do it again? Meaning, what did you learn?
yeah, it's not an easy question. At the end, I think you can do everything differently,
Yeah, sure.
I thought about it because I'm always asking to myself this question, but at the end of the day, the job was done, and the job is done. And as I told you, the merger was done at an impressive pace. And as a company, not only procurement, but really as a company, we did it without external support, which is something that we are particularly proud of at Swile, because we are the owner of our destiny, and I think we managed to at the procurement level to play a critical role for profitability first and cultural alignment, because we are really a department in the middle of like everyone. So at the end, we can do plenty of things differently, but the job is done. And I think you can always be better for, spending more time with people, finding maybe more quickly the key of cultural alignment, etc. But at the end, I think, to be honest, at a department level and at a company level, we did a very good job in only 2 years.
So you would not do anything differently, but now you have the experience, so you know you would do it a better way because you have maybe a lot of little things where you would be straight to the best solution because you've done it before.
Yeah, and maybe if I have like a magic one, I would say like data, to have like a really good ERP at the beginning and to have all the informations we require to move quickly should have been better. But when you are buying a company that is like a structural, from a structural standpoint, a new company, and you are in a startup in the same time that was not managing procurement before, it's normal, So
Yeah, that would have been a dream to
yeah.
have that. Yeah, cool. And that's correlated, but maybe through a different angle to finish on this topic. And before that, just for the audience, Swile recently announced being profitable. We're in September 24. So I think there is a massive contribution from you and your team in achieving this successful merge in, you're right, very short period of time. And the initial means of this acquisition was a road to profitability. Job done. Congrats. We'll speak about the next step right after. But I think people need to understand that its job has been done. You're right. Like even though you could do it a better way now because you've learned, it's remained a success. So what would you advise to someone in the position you were 2 years ago that is at the very beginning of a major acquisition for the first time, where she should put a lot of attention? Is it data collection? It is people alignment, support from C-suite? What would it be?
A bit of both, I would say. I would say data in the way of getting like a clear understanding of your contracts, suppliers, spend, and to identify synergies and risk as well as you integrate a new entity. And I would say like the second focus, but maybe the first one, the most important one is internal alignment because it will help you to move faster and in a more collaboratively way of working. But then with the two things, with these two blocks, you will manage to prioritize, to identify your synergies and opportunities, but to prioritize it. So I would like advise to get all the data that you can. As we said earlier, turn it into knowledge, understand the vision of your company post-merger. There is several items on the company A, several items on the company B, and it will not coexist. So few items from company A will be kept, and a few items from company B will be kept. So fully try to understand the strategy of your company and where it will be in 2 years. In that way, you will be able to prioritize your opportunities.
And understand what's your role in the execution of this vision. I like the way you've put it earlier in our conversation is make sure people value you not as an operational department. We negotiate contract, we do savings, we find suppliers. This is the operational part of procurement, but the biggest value is we are a strategic partner. Whatever the operational task we do to make it happen, we sustain the vision of the company with our expertise as procurement people. So
Yeah,
I think you're right. It's a bigger thing.
Yeah, and one thing about profitability, because we talked about it, it's not only, and maybe we talk about it later, but I think, especially at Swile, and I think in every tech companies, we are not aiming to deliver, a procurement shared service center, and we really believe at Swile, and I assume in other tech companies, that to empower people in a procurement way of working is really the most important part of your job. So to deliver the profitability, it was not so we were a critical department into it, but it was really a company effort. And at the end, we are for procurement part, not supply chain, etc. But for procurement part, we have like we are 4 right now. But in fact, when you think about it, at Swile we are more than 700, and 700 people was working like hell to renegotiate their contract with their supplier, etc. So we are quite a big team, in fact.
Yeah. So you're moving to the second part of the interview, so that's perfect for the transition. The way I see it in the different company, and you're right, especially in the tech company, is the change of paradigm where procurement become a very decentralized function.
Yeah.
So you became more something close to a center of excellence. So we're going to give you the tool and the framework and the methodology to do procurements at your own level, rather than delegating everything related to procurement. That is more the classic, I'd say old school way to do it. When, for example, you can see in some company, people dedicated to just procure something,
Yeah.
send an order to a supplier, which for a tech company like Swile sounds absurd.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's move to the second part. I want to have your view and your experience on the building a procurement department from the ground. We cover a bit of it, but I just want to make sure our audience have all the learnings and actionable insights on your experience. You join as a first full-time employee for procurement. Now you say that you have a team of 3 people across France and Brazil, because Swile is across these 2 geo. And you come from another company that I think back then already had something in place. So it was quite new in a way to be on a blank page, or maybe differently. So tell us about the early days and the last 2 years, and how it went from nothing to something.
Yeah, it's a good point. In fact, what I said earlier is still like the same. I think our job was to uh, arrive in a company that was really focused on growth and also not profitability, I would say, and to make sure that we were able to industrialize and to scale the procurement function, and in the same time to preserve Swile core DNA and agility. As we are a fast-moving, innovative company, we were able to keep this spirit and to keep it in the way of working, because we don't want to implement like a process that doesn't make sense, etc.
Yeah.
And also, as you said, one of our challenge was to also empower people in order to make sure that people was capable of like being their own buyer. So we needed to, on top of the process and policies that needed to fit to Swile, we needed to educate our teams and ensure that they had the right tool, but also the right skills to manage directly their suppliers. And it was not what we said about centralizing procurement, but enabling everyone in the company to be confident in managing their supplier relationship. And I would say around that, what we needed to do at the beginning is to, I would say, reestablish the credibility of Swile, because it was one of the challenge we had.
You mean over the supplier perception?
Yeah,
Okay.
because at the beginning, we didn't have an history of tough negotiation with our provider, and we were seen as an easy target on the market. It was an easy customer, easy target,
I
etc.
never considered that, so it's interesting to have your view on that. And I was about to ask you, like, over the last 2 years, the different milestone that have paved the way of your procurement department. And I was about to tell you about what I had learned from you, which is the code of conduct with the supplier. Would you say that it's part of re-establishing the relationship and the perception of suppliers?
Yeah, of course. It was one of the part. I mean, to have some demand and I would say to have like some standard that you want to apply with your provider was one of the thing. And also, what we did is to do some, as I told you at the beginning, you need to negotiate plenty of things in order to show why you are there, and to have, it will sound dumb, but tough negotiation was really important to re-establish the reputation of Swile and to building that credibility in the market in order to securing better deals and partnership in the future. So yeah, supplier code of conduct was one of the tools we used. Negotiation was one of the way of doing as well. And I would say also
on the negotiation, I think a lot of your other procurement people ask themselves, how do I empower or train or teach negotiation? Do you have some tips, advice on that?
Yeah. It started at Le Bon Coin. I built like a training, a negotiation training, really the 101 of negotiation. Because when you talk with people at procurement, everyone is complaining of what they learn at school, because negotiation is really a theoretical approach. We don't have any, leverage that we can activate directly into the negotiation. So I built the first negotiation at Le Bon Coin that I use at Swile as well. But right now, what we are doing is we are working currently on a 3-step program in order to work with our stakeholders in order to give them basic stuff for the negotiation, e-learning in the middle with a lot of theoretical things, and after an advanced and an expert negotiation training. And at the end of this scale, you need to negotiate with us at procurement. So we have like different role play, and at the end they need to negotiate with us. And it's quite fun because it's a game. Everything is done with a game approach. So everyone is happy to participate on it. But in the same time, there is some stakes, because you are in front of us and we are really negotiating with you. So we are putting some pressure, etc. And it helps us to give to people basically tools, but also confidence. Plenty of people doesn't negotiate because they are not like they are a bit afraid of it, and they are afraid of asking. So we are giving some tools and some confidence to people to just pick their phone and say and talk with their providers. So this is what we do in order to empower people and make sure that people are negotiating.
Is it part of the onboarding process for a new joiner, or you just limit that to a certain level of seniority?
So it should be. It's a good point. And,
You see me coming.
yeah, it should be, and it's a very good idea. As of today, not really like a part of the levels that you have or the seniority. We are really targeting the people that buy stuff. So whatever is your seniority into the company, you will buy things from providers or not. And we are like targeting our larger team. So to make sure that people are well prepared to negotiate. And in this training, every time we start, we begin with a disclaimer in order to re-explain the way of working with a provider from like a process standpoint. It's like go on the P2P, make your order, stuff like that, etc. To that people remember that how to work.
Yeah, to anchor the process. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I think one over the last 2 years, so your team grew. What trigger to be from a one-man show to a proper team? Like I know you hired, I think it was Kevin in first. What was your business case to move from just yourself to a proper team?
At the beginning, we hire one procurement FTE, which is Kevin. Kevin is a really good negotiator, so it didn't make me lie, because the rationale behind like hiring another procurement FTE when you are alone was for me basically the savings. At the beginning, we were focusing on the first stone of the procurement, and as we were aiming to get profitable, we were really focused on the savings and risk mitigation as well. So the rationale behind like the Kevin hiring was savings. We just hired another procurement FTE, Elisa, And the rationale behind Elisa is to not only
Elisa is in Brazil.
no, so we hired Luisa in Brazil.
Okay.
Do our job. So we have Luisa and Elisa.
Luisa was an internal move, or it was an hiring?
No, it was an hiring in Brazil, a
Okay.
local hiring. And Luisa is there to establish procurement framework for Brazil,
Okay.
which is the same company but working totally differently. So it's really interesting in another market with different code, etc. So she is working to establish a procurement framework in Brazil. And we just hired Elisa in France as well right now. 2 weeks ago, she joined 2 weeks ago.
Congrats.
And the rationale of Elisa was a bit different than Kevin because we are not focusing only on savings now. It's to build the other procurement. I think we are moving toward to procurement maturity. And we talked about it, the two of us, when you
You're a fan of our procurement maturity framework.
Yeah. And when you shared your the last paper that you that you released, it was quite interesting to see where we are at Swile. So we are in the middle. So you had 5 steps, if I remember well. I think we are at step 2, near the step 3. So the objective is to continue to grow and to be a proper procurement that can address also the requirement of our own customers, because our own customers are asking us what are our procurement practices, how do we manage suppliers, etc. So from a really sourcing, approach, we need to move to a proper, larger procurement practice. So yeah.
Cool. So, would it be fair to say, as an advice to people creating a department, read Pivot framework maturity and go help yourself?
No, it's a good one, and this is what I shared with you when I read it. I said it's a good it's a good one because it helps you to take some a distance with what you are doing on a day-to-day basis and see and to rethink about your goal and to change also your pattern, in fact, your way of doing. But yeah, I thought about what you said about advice to a first procurement hire. And what I did at Leboncoin and at Swile, and I think it's the same for a lot of jobs, is to succeed in your first 100 days. You have 3 months to deliver. So 3 months to set up your framework. This is the advice that I would give to someone.
Okay. So make sure you can deliver value in the first 100 days. So ask yourself, where should I invest to be as impactful as possible in my first 100 days?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the same organizations that you have in consulting, for example.
Yeah.
So you have org consulting, and you have operational one. For org, you need to set up your framework, conducting a spend analysis, understanding the company's operation, culture, strategy, and as we said, take your data, knowledge, and then your vision that is aligned to the vision of the company, and in the same time, so it's your procurement structure. And in the same time, to deliver quick wins, to show that you are not just a theoretical, procurement guy, but also someone that deliver. And at the beginning and every time, by the way, it's really important to be really hands-on. I think it means you need to be able to call a supplier to negotiate, to tackle some problem, so to help your stakeholders to deliver some savings, but also to release the pressures that they could have with some providers, and to resolve some problem. And in that way, you will see as a strategic partner within the company. And 3 months, 100 days, a bit more than 3 months, I think is the right timing to succeed.
Yeah. Take enough time to not rush, get the data, understand the organization, but being very focused early on to deliver value.
Yeah.
Cool. How do you develop your skills, your learnings? Do you have any podcast reading, like influencer people, topics, things you would advise to expand procurement knowledge to the community?
Yeah, totally. As I told you, my current obsession is negotiation, because it's the basic of procurement, but when you take a look at it, we are not really helped on that at school. And on a day-to-day basis, it's really common to see people that think they can negotiate and they know how to negotiate, but they are not as good as they thought. So, and I was part of it as well. So we really worked, especially with Kevin, on a negotiation training that help us to also to relearn about our basic, So training is really good for our stakeholder, but also for us. So yeah, podcast. I was recently I listened a lot of podcasts about negotiation, and one of it was amazing. It was a podcast with Laurent Combalbert. So this guy is a former negotiator from the Red.
Okay, so it's the equivalent of the SWAT.
Yeah, exactly, in France, exactly. And the guy was a negotiator from the SWAT in France, and his approach is and methodologies are incredible and amazing because there is really a parallel between negotiation for his case, like hostages, stuff like that. But also there is a lot of parallel with commercial negotiation, and it was really insightful. So to be honest, Laurent Combalbert.
Cool. I'll put the link in the description for the audience.
Cool.
Last question: who would you like to hear on the podcast? Who should be the next guest?
I would say the next guest should be so I have two answers. I have next guest and maybe not the next, but I would really like to hear another topic as well. So next guest, I would say Carole Largeau. Carole is VP procurement of Content Square. And if I remember well, she was the first procurement director in a tech company named Criteo. This is the first that I at least known back to a couple of years ago. And she, in my mind, she opened the door of procurement in tech companies. So Carole Largeau, I would be really glad to hear her in one of your podcasts. And from like a topic perspective, I really would like to hear about AI in procurement.
Okay. The topic, you don't have someone specific in mind?
No, I don't have someone specific in mind.
You're not using AI at all in your day-to-day?
We are.
Okay.
At procurement, we are using AI, not for a while. It's quite recent, and it helps us to win a lot of time. And we are using AI for productivity, prepare some negotiation as well, sourcing, getting more information, etc. And we won a lot of time, and
Okay.
really be glad
Would
to
like to deep dive on that topic.
of
Could
best
you share an example of something like even a basic one of
yeah.
something that saves you time or helps you to be more efficient with AI?
So from a day-to-day perspective, after a meeting, the synthesis of the meeting is amazing. You win. It's maybe dumb, but 20 minutes per meeting in order, to put all your notes into, I don't know, ChatGPT, for example, and it gives you a very good content to share with your stakeholders. So really good. And then from a negotiation perspective, it's really great because it helps you to screen the market, to understand who is the competitor of which company. It helps you to prepare your negotiation. And one of the key elements that we are explaining in our learning is to ask question and to do not give answer. And for open question and calibrated question, one of the guys who learned that is Chris Voss, who's a former, negotiator from the FBI. It's calibrated question, and for this one, it's really helpful to prepare with, for example, ChatGPT.
Okay.
So calibrated question.
Like ChatGPT gonna help you to find the right question in a space, in industries that maybe you don't know of a specific supplier, to make sure that you're gonna have a very specific, tailored question.
Yeah, and when you go to negotiation, you need to have like 6, 7, open question in order to be able to to negotiate basically. And ChatGPT helps you to win some time of that. Instead of like thinking about it during 1 hour, you go to ChatGPT and it's like a better version of yourself. It's like you with
Superpower.
with an IQ of 150. So the guy will give you a good answer very, very easy. So yeah.
Marie-Laure from Ledger use ChatGPT a lot for RFI.
Okay.
Because when you want to run accurate question in a very specific space that you don't know because it's very expertise related, either cybersecurity or technology. So she rely on ChatGPT to have very accurate question.
Okay.
And I think it's a good one because the supplier will value the fact that you ask accurate question, relevant question, and the procurement process benefit from answers that does have value to evaluate. So
yeah, and there is no, no wrong question, huh? Only a wrong answer. So when you are negotiating a question, is a key element to get your to your objective.
Cool. Thank you very much, Eric. Wish you the best and stay in touch.
Thanks, Romain. Thanks for the interview. Bye.